I think I need to come in with some breaking news. No, I'm
Yeah,
serious.
yeah, go for it.
Ozzy Osbourne, he's gone to God.
Oh no,
Yeah. Wow.
that's horrible.
Oh man, I'll have to do a video on that. My
Yeah,
goodness.
absolutely. That's
Um,
was this something that was anticipated to be happening soon? I
no,
know that
just
he like I
I'm looking at my feed
yeah.
on X. So sad, bloody legend. Ozzy Osbourne dies just weeks after farewell show. Of course, he
Mm,
did that big show in Villa Park in Birmingham, where they're from, just a couple of weeks
yeah.
ago with an absolutely stellar lineup. You would sell your granny to have gotten tickets to go to that. It
Yeah.
was absolutely
Yeah.
phenomenal. Everybody who was
Yeah.
anybody was there. And 76 is a young age these days, but I mean, look, Ozzy has been
Oh
through
yeah. Yeah.
several different lifetimes, and
Yeah.
you know
Absolutely.
he wouldn't have had a fresh salad every day. Let's put it that, particularly during the
Absolutely.
70s.
Yeah.
Wow.
Am I correct in saying that for that concert he had to be sitting the whole time? Like he
Yeah.
wasn't like
Yeah. So
yeah, okay.
they wheeled him out quite literally. And,
Yeah.
someone had said to me beforehand, he actually sings better than he talks. And I said, well, I hope so, because no one wants to listen to him talk. So,
Yeah.
look, I don't know how many songs he did. So I'm not going to say it, because someone will follow up and go, you idiot, he only did 4 songs. So, look, his
Yeah.
appearance. I did see clips of his appearance, and it was decent enough for a man who, as we
Mhm.
have sadly discovered tonight, really was uh, on his way out, to use
Yeah.
a euphemism. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, that's
Mm.
incredible. Well, it's not
Mm.
incredible, but it's a sad bit of news there. But
It is. Yeah, absolutely.
he was singing from the chair. I mean, it was a spectacle that was, while really great to see. I couldn't help look at it and go, God, that's the poor man. And I don't mean to sound condescending, but it's not great. I mean, look, I guess there's no doubt that he and Sharon and his family were like, you should do this, you should do this. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
brilliant. But you just don't like to see
Mhm.
rock and roll heroes like that. Don't
Yeah.
you?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah. Yeah. It
it
was
was
different.
yeah. No, I was
It's
just going
like
to say.
different. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I can't remember who it was recently was talking about the difference with dying young. It's better to burn out rather than to fade away. It'll come
Mm,
to me in a
yeah.
second, but they'd mentioned Kurt Cobain, or someone like that, and they were like, look
Yeah.
at his legacy. It's
Yeah.
untouchable.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. It's true. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And like there is a big difference between like him have like kind of sitting while he's performing and somebody like Joni Mitchell doing it, because like
yeah,
for him
yeah. Of
his
course,
music
yeah,
is so full of energy, right? Whereas with Joni
yeah,
Mitchell it's like she's done whole concerts when she was able-bodied to sitting, you know what I mean?
yeah.
Like she like that sometimes in folk that's like a normal thing, but yeah, it is weird to see somebody that is such high like has music that's all just high energy and like
Yeah.
it kind of demands that stage presence, and somebody known for their performance and stage
Yeah, of
presence to
course.
be sitting. It would be unusual,
Yeah, I mean, his
but
performances are
definitely.
mythical. His performances
Yeah.
blend reality and fiction, biting the heads off birds
Mm.
and bats and all the rest of it. I mean, there's
Yeah.
just so much lore
So
at
crazy.
this stage. You'd
Yeah.
have to dig hard to find the truth. But what we do know, he was
Yeah.
a charismatic, compelling frontman.
Mm.
He was a
Mm.
decent singer. He lived the
Mm.
rock and roll stereotype. I mean, he was up there with the likes of Keith Moon, as a
Mm.
Hellraiser. And
Yeah.
it caught up with him, of course. But
Yeah.
there's no doubt that his contribution to metal, to guitar music with his band, Black Sabbath, who a lot of people say invented heavy metal with their debut album.
Yeah. Yeah.
His legacy is sealed. I mean, there'll be lots of obituaries, but I think you do have to go back to the early '70s and what Sabbath did. And Ozzy Osbourne was a fundamental part of that, even though, Tony Iommi and the other band members were responsible for creating such a great sound at the time that
Mm.
scared people, literally and
Yeah.
figuratively.
Yeah, yeah. I was just talking about this with on another episode, just about like the whole like boogeyman in, especially in like conservative Christian like circles with rock music, and like Ozzy Osbourne would impersonate that, like that would be what people would call the devil's music. Like you said, it scared people.
Completely.
And like looking back now, there's music that you're like, this isn't like, like that, this Ozzy Osbourne doesn't even touch some of this music in terms of like lyrics and darkness and but
no, I mean,
at the time it was so crazy.
Some of the stuff that you can hear now, or some of the stuff that followed, makes Black Sabbath albums sound like the soundtrack for Peppa Pig. There was so much moral panic when Black Sabbath came about that really, in hindsight, you realise, like a lot of panics that happen, there was no need for such outrage or indignation. The band themselves were pretty normal guys, really, from the black country in England, and their upbringing was working class, and they just liked having a party, and they liked making loud, heavy rock music, and so many other bands were the same, Zeppelin and many others. So Sabbath, they just did it very well, and they're in the right place at the right time with a great aesthetic and a great sound, and it worked, and it, their influence is just so huge. And again, I think you saw that influence in the lineup for the festival, for the one day event at Villa Park in Birmingham. Phenomenal lineup, as we were saying earlier.
It's crazy. And I guess you obviously seem very familiar with Black Sabbath. I'm probably like moderately familiar with them, but I feel like the influence that they had on music, like we said before, like creating basically a genre. A lot of people credit their debut album to starting metal. Where would you kind of put them if you thought like influential bands in history? Would you put them in like a top 10? Would you put them in a top 20? Like, I know that's really tough.
No, I think I'd almost put them in a top 10 for guitar-based music, or for hard rock or heavy rock. I would put them in a top 10, particularly for that first album, and for Paranoid. Faith No More did a really great cover of War Pigs. There's a band that fuses rap and metal, and it shouldn't. You think, why are they covering War Pigs? Well, they are, because they've massive respect for Black Sabbath. I think Queens of the Stone Age would owe a debt to Black Sabbath. You wouldn't have to look hard. You could read any autobiography of a 90s big selling hard rock band, grunge band, or anyone like that, and I guarantee you Black Sabbath would crop up. The Beatles, Black Sabbath, bands like that, massive influence on their sound. Maybe even more so than Zeppelin, now that I think about it. On that hard rock sound.
I'm putting you so on the spot here, but what would be some other bands that you'd put on this list? You said Beatles, Black Sabbath.
That's a good question. Beatles, Black Sabbath, the Stones, I suppose. But the Stones pilfered a lot. I mean, look, I know Zeppelin pilfered a lot as well. They, Jimmy Page basically stole a lot of blues guitar riffs from older blues legends, and the Stones did likewise. Influential bands on rock and roll. God, you have kind of put me on the spot. I mean, I think, like, there's bands like Aerosmith and Cheap Trick. Like, there's bands like that, which, for a time it was naff to admit that they were an influence, on your sound. But there's no doubt, because don't forget, that would have been a very dominant rock sound in the late 70s and early 80s. And a lot of Gen X bands were consuming most of their music, and they were most impressionable probably at that age, and would go on, and maybe even subconsciously it comes across in their sound. I was watching the documentary on MTV about Lollapalooza, and Jane's Addiction, who a lot of people feel were more influential than Nirvana. I
Mm.
can't remember, one of the members of L7
Yeah.
said that the Jane's Addiction sound funneled a lot of different influences as well, including funk, um,
Yeah. Yeah.
like you could sketch out influences through a lot of different musical family trees.
Mm. Yeah.
But like,
Absolutely.
yeah, I think the big players of the 60s, the big classic rock acts, like Dylan as well, of course, and Neil Young, Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young. I mean, even their influence is huge. You listen to Fleet Foxes,
Yeah.
and you go, oh, Crosby, Stills,
Yeah.
Nash and Young.
Absolutely. Yeah. What do you think of like the Pixies?
Oh, I love the Pixies. I mean, like the
Mm.
Pixies to me are one of the most important bands because, during my adolescent music discovery phase, as I call it, which I think everyone goes through, the Pixies
Yeah.
and the Stone Roses were probably the two biggest bands. And when I was in school, which I mean secondary school in Ireland, so that's like from the age of 12 to the age of 18. There was a band. My friends had a band, and I managed the band. In other words, I went along and got drunk. But they covered a lot of Pixies songs. They covered Tame, and they covered Cactus. So Come On Pilgrim and Surfer Rosa and Doolittle were three albums that completely soundtracked that period of my life. And unlike some
Yeah.
albums, they stayed with me forever.
Yeah.
I've never tired of listening to Pixies, and I think their influence is huge. Kurt Cobain is on record as saying that "Smells Like Teen Spirit." He wanted that song to sound like, he wanted to rip off the Pixies. Basically, is what he's saying. I think they're hugely influential. The loud, quiet, loud motif, or that particular style, has influenced loads of different bands. You could possibly even think that you could possibly even say the hottest band right now in kind of a rock genre, Turnstile, maybe have wear a little bit of Pixies on their influence as well. And
Yeah.
two quick things about the Pixies. I actually, years later, I ended up being a teacher for a brief period of time, and I was teaching a class once, and a guy asked me, he'd heard a band called the Pixies. And I was like, yeah, man, you got to listen to the Pixies. I was like, oh, this is great. I was kind of like, I had my Dead Poets Society moment. I was like, I'll educate you with the Pixies. And I gave the kid a copy of Surfer Rosa on CD. And I went home anyway. And this kid was like 14. And then I realized that CD cover has a naked lady on the front, her torso. And I thought, oh my God,
Yeah.
what if the mother comes in to complain?
Yeah.
But she didn't. And then the other one the other one is a little bit of a brag, which is I once got to interview Gil Norton, who's a producer, and he produced Doolittle, and it was a pleasure to talk to him about working. Yeah, it was great. He was really cool. It was great learning all about the technique, the process of working with Pixies, recording with Black Francis, all of that. It was really cool.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah,
that's really cool. Yeah, that would be an awesome interview to be a part of, for sure.
Yeah, it was great.
I find that like there's more, and I didn't, like, obviously I'm not necessarily around the age that could have grown up listening to the Pixies, but I listened to a lot of the Pixies, and I find that a lot of rock right now is kind of like feels very Pixie to me. Like you mentioned Turnstile. I think like Fontaine's DC or whatever. I don't know if they like want the French pronunciation or what, but I usually go that
Fontaine's.
way.
Fontaine's DC.
Fontaine's. Yeah. So anyway, I find that there's a lot of like Pixie influence there. Like I think of like a previous one, like Arctic Monkeys. Like I don't like obviously there's a lot of punk, but I don't know. I just feel like they have a lot of influence, and they're still going. They're still touring.
Yeah, of
like
course.
they've been to Nashville twice in less than a year already. So
really?
It's crazy.
Yeah.
They're just going for it. Yeah.
I did a top 10, my top 10 Pixies. I did that songs.
Oh, nice.
I did that a few months ago. That was good.
Okay.
People are a little less angry about songs as opposed to albums.
Yeah, it's true. They'll still get angry, but yes.
Oh yeah.
They'll always get angry.